Up, Mike D checking in here. So the headlines read the Billboard Hot 100 for the first time in 35 years. It doesn't have a hip hop song within the top 40, and everyone is going crazy. Well. Are people overreacting? Is this something real? Is this something that, we should be concerned about as hip hop fans or a hip hop public? I don't know. But I will say this. I think this is a perfect opportunity to actually speak about how things have changed as far as charting and how streaming has changed the way, the Billboard chart actually functions. And does it mean the same thing that it once meant? Now, I saw somebody speaking about there's so many people saying many things, and I think we'll cover all the narratives. But one of the things that I wanted to cover first was the fact that somebody spoke about, what the charts looked like in 1990. Well, what makes everything different from 1990, which is, 35 years ago, and the last time this happened, you would never see an artist on there multiple times, right? Because singles were put out one by one, and more times than not, at least it wouldn't be, an artist on there multiple times for an album, for a song that's on the same album, excuse me. Because unless it was a monster hit, right? Because usually once singles were over, the record labels would go to the next single, whatever. Um, Saying all that to say, on this week's charts, Taylor Swift has 12 songs that take up um, the top 40. So she has 12 songs that are within the top 40 on this week's Billboard Hot 100. She took up 12 spots. That's 30% of the countdown, um, or the top 40, if you will, just belonging to Taylor Swift's album. The whole album's on there. Let's just call it what it is. That happens because of streaming. That would not happen if we weren't in a streaming era. Now, I think there's a catch 22 there. We always celebrate when our hip hop artists, let's just say Kendrick, Drake does it too. They drop an album, everything on the album charts. But what has happened is the mainstream has shrunk. And not that we don't have a lot of hip hop out there. We don't have a lot of hip hop artists in the mainstream. So when you have Drake or Kendrick resting, even though they did incredible things on the charts, I'm using them as examples, right? When they're not active or when their songs get a little older and new albums come out, like Taylor Swift's album came out a few weeks back, what was that 4 weeks ago, about a month ago? Then they're going to be off the charts altogether. And what we have seen, well, one of the things we've seen, because again, there are multiple factors here, and I'm going to go through a few of them. One of the things we've seen is okay, well, once that's taken off the board, then boom, there are going to be no hip hop songs on that top 40. Um, I also saw the narrative out there that, Kendrick Lamar killed hip hop's opportunity um, to have its biggest hit maker via Drake active enough where we could keep the streak going. This is the thing, man. Drake just turned 39 years old. In hip hop, man, respectfully, because I think everybody is entitled to be active as an artist. I'm never here to tell anybody when to hang it up, whatever. Like, we all talk hip hop at all of our respected ages. But you could look at the Billboard Hot 100, and not just in 2025, but even back in the day, it was about youth culture. And that's not just a hip hop thing. That's like in general, it's going, I mean, and Taylor Swift's not young per se, but she caters to a young audience. But when we're in hip hop, depending on a 39-year-old and Kendrick's 38 years old, to keep the hits rolling for hip hop, we're not in a good place, right? Um, we need to invest in talent. And when I say we, I mean the fans, and I think the fans have. Look, this ain't even on the fans. I think we do enough going at the fans because the fans are sitting here listening to these conversations. You know what I'm saying? Wanting to hear about music, wanting to hear about the nostalgia and the new releases that are coming up. Look at what Mass Appeal's doing right now. We got Big L dropping tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? We also have, I hate dating our shows, but I like to actually talk about what's current too, so that we could time capsule this as well. We got Ransom and DJ Premier dropping tomorrow. Hip hop fans are excited about that. Lloyd Banks is dropping tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop fans are excited about that. So the fans are doing enough. It's the industry that is not investing in the talent. And it's the industry that's letting opportunities slip by for the next generation of hip hop artists to go out there and, do the quote unquote numbers. Now we have to ask ourselves, how important are these numbers? And are these numbers of the Billboard's structure, is it outdated? Is it a reflection of what's actually going on? Because when you have 12 songs that make up the top 40 for one individual artist, that can't possibly be a time capsule of what's going on in October or November of 2025. If you go back and look at the Billboard charts from, let's just say, November of 1990, it will take you through that time. You got Groove Is in My Heart was in that top 5, I believe. Those things take you to a time because those songs were actually a time capsule of that time, as opposed to in the streaming era, everybody's just trying to do whatever they got to do to get those numbers. You don't have these songs being a part of the era, if that makes any sense. But saying all that to say, hip hop's not about that. Hip hop is about culture, about the time, and about the place you were when you heard this stuff. And many of the songs that A Shook Ones Part 2 never saw a top 40. You know what I'm saying? Troy, When They Reminisce Over You, was never a top 40 on a Hot 100. So the narratives out here about, this being the end of hip hop is dead. Billboard Hot 100 doesn't have anything to do with hip hop, and it never did. But I think what's happening now, and hip hop is always ahead of the curve when it comes to what's next and what's new. With hip hop excluded from the Billboard Hot 100, in my personal opinion, this tells me that the Hot 100 doesn't mean what it used to mean either. And it tells me that its model is outdated. But we also do have to acknowledge, though, hit records in hip hop don't mean the same thing that they once met in a certain era when radio was king. NBA YoungBoy is out here doing amazing numbers, both on tour and just, monetization altogether. His fan base is crazy. When he was in New Orleans, man, for his show down there, it was just mayhem, real star power type of stuff. He doesn't have quote unquote hits on the radio like that. And, you have to ask yourself, like, what does a hit mean in hip hop in 2025? We have such a short attention span. We meaning hip hop fans, but especially the younger hip hop fans. The attention span is so short. You have songs that are 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes long. If you have a Kendrick, Not Like Us, a Luther, and you hear it over 10 times, you don't want to hear it anymore. Like, I think that goes back to, back in a certain era when, again, radio was king and they would just play a song out. And you didn't have any other option but to listen to it, especially if, like, you were in the car with your parents or something like that. Or if you had, if you didn't have a CD player, I'm going way back. But radio will run a song into the ground. And now people have options. If they're listening to a certain platform that's playing a certain song 5 times over, you could choose to not ever hear this song again. Whenever it comes on, clicking something else. And I think that his on-demand culture, whether it be mobile or with our televisions or whatnot, has really changed what a hit record looks like in music, but hip hop specifically, because in hip hop, we measured our hits by stuff that people just couldn't stop playing. And there's a quality control there too, because I don't feel like we have a quality record like, let's just say, and I'm going way back on this one as well. like a children's story from Slick Rick. That was a record that got played over and over and over to the point where everybody knew the words to it. And hip hop really hasn't given us that from a quality standpoint when it comes to our hit records in a minute. I mean, we've gotten it, in different spans of time. I think Not Like Us is a legit hip hop hit. And it's just a legit hit altogether. But even as great as it was in the battle, people got tired of it. But what it does, it continues, and it's not Kendrick's fault. They're doing their job. Kendrick, Drake, all of these guys are doing their job. But we're watching the mainstream shrink. And so, even with the up and coming artists, let's say NBA YoungBoy again. I mean, he's been around 10 years, so he's not that, but he's an artist that connects to a younger demographic. They're not reaching to go to a label and get to the Grammys. Like that's not their goal. Their goal is to go out here, make a couple of mixtapes, probably make an album, drop some merch, you know what I'm saying? Get on some festival lineups or whatever and keep it moving. And whereas, the goal used to be a little bit different. And I don't even know how the mainstream is able to even entice a young artist to even, be a part of what they're doing. And if they do, it has nothing to do with music. And I think that is our biggest problem. I think the biggest problem in this conversation, if you will, is music isn't the number one focus. And even when young artists get signed to a major, a big time major or whatever, the major wants them to go out there and do other things outside of music. Music has become the gateway. It's not the end all be all anymore. And with music not being the focus, the quality of the music suffers because you're not focusing on the quality of that. You're focusing on what your next, you know, I don't want to say model gig, but yeah, in some cases, your next model gig, your next collaboration, your next, what I'm saying, joint venture with whatever other company that's tying into your quote unquote brand, but the music hasn't been on the forefront in a very long time. And I think that's what we're seeing here when it comes to the successes and lack thereof on a mainstream level with individual songs. But on the flip side of that, and I want to say this, to kind of close this off, I think the underground is thriving in ways that the underground hasn't thrived in decades in hip hop, and it's a great thing. And for the people who really love hip hop music and love bars and love their artists, that's something to aspire to. Where it's like, you know what? Back in the day, you wouldn't have gotten a Shay Noir and Love the Genius making an album together. All the things that shit, we wouldn't have gotten a Ransom and DJ Premier in such short notice or whatever. We wouldn't have gotten, Nas to say, yo, I'm gonna put together a Mob Deep album with Alchemist and Havoc, man. Like, I love these things that we're able to do in hip hop now. It's a level of freedom going on there. It's a give and take with the industry not having a strong hold on our artists, but our artists have the freedom to kind of do whatever they want. But it's on the fans to actually appreciate and to pay attention to those things. Now, the last thing I want to say is about media. The media needs to cover these things properly. And, again, I'm a part of that as well. We see different podcasts where they want to talk about the same individuals over and over and over. And we all fall into that trap because everybody's playing the algorithm game. But at the same time, if we want to benefit our music and our artists, we really need to give the up and coming talented artists something to reach for from a quality standpoint. Like, what is the incentive of making a great album? What are you inspired to do by making this great effort? What JID did this year should be applauded. You know what I mean? Like, anytime that we get artists that are thriving in their prime in this era, making quality music, we should applaud that and celebrate that. But at the same time, there needs to be an open line of communication with up and coming media as well, and the artists that aren't getting that attention by the mainstream also. We need to close that gap, man. Like, I would love to talk to Shay Noir, and Love's been great. You know, she loves this channel, and we've talked in the past or whatnot. I hadn't talked in a minute, but I would love to talk to them about, the effort they got coming up, man. Like, and I love to see when, Ransom reaches out to grassroots media and they have conversations and things like that. We need more of that dialogue because honestly, that's what the fans want. And we all we got because the mainstream has shrunk. If you're not a part of, that Kendrick, Drake, Tyler, wave or whatnot, you're gonna get treated like a second class citizen. And I think Doce is in there too. Doja Cat, Glorilla, Cardi B. I can't forget that. You know what I mean? But if you're not in that handful of artists that the mainstream totes out, you need to be out here reaching out to grassroots media as well. And if we're not talking about you, let's have a conversation so we can talk about you. But yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for hip hop to continue on the path that it's been going as far as getting to the root and making quality music for the fans. But let me know what you guys think about this, man. Is it a big deal for hip hop to even be on the Hot 100? Or is hip hop just fine? Hit me in the comment section, man. Hit like and subscribe. Can't wait to talk to y'all. All right.